Alrighty. Hi, hi. Hello, everybody. Alrighty, let's swap over to game. There is game. Game is here. Here we go. Oh yeah, okay, so we have what? I think we have one more left. This was the next to last one. Hi, everybody. Back. Good job. Last one coming up. Almost there. Yeah. Yeah. Oh. I don't know what just happened. You good? Once this is over. Yeah, just noise time. Peace will return to the sea. Hello, kitty cat. She was born into trouble too, after all. Huh? Yeah, maybe so. Klamaki's just been on the phone the whole dang time. Lady Klamaki! I think that's Lopko. Hmm? Yep. So there you are. Oh, Lopko. Sure you should leave your father's side? Moping over him isn't going to help anything. Excuse me, on info! So, for my father, I have to do my best. I see. Well, don't really have anything for you to do. Besides, I'm an outsider. I'm not, though. Well, wait, huh? Then what if my firm resolve? Kind of pointless. Duh. I guess it's like that. Like she's like lowering her head. Yeah, she's the one who's gonna decide the fate of this sea. Huh? You know, her. But anyway. Yes? Why isn't everyone helping? She gets to decide. She has the power. With what? With Wadanohara's work. Her and her familiars going here and there is rough, ain't it? Because the great sorcerer created this magic that protects the sea. Only those he's approved can get involved. That's his daughter, Wadanohara, and her familiars. Hmm? Wasn't that Tatsumiya girl managing the barrier before? Not Wadanohara's familiar, is she? Huh? To think of it, why is that? Da-dun. Great sorcerer, huh? I've never heard of him. All right, finally last. That's right. Yay! Thank you, King. This is where the last one is. It's behind Sea God Castle. Huh? Is that the old sea? The off-limits place? Old sea. Right. I haven't gone there very much either. Thank you, King. Alright, everyone. Let's go. Alright. Yeah. Roger. I guess it's this way that we're pointing. Oh, new friends. New friends to murder. Hello, friends. Shark. Shark, 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 shark. Okay, good. I was about to say the shark is beef. No, it's fine. Fukami took 4 damage. Did he feel it? Yay. Yay. I think Fukami keeps leveling ahead of everybody too. I'm so strong. Oh! Ice balls! I love them! I love the ice balls. How's it going? Think faster. Wow. Hello, Butters. Doing good, doing good. I'm really excited about tonight's issue here, or tonight's episode here. I'm so tonight's issue of the manga. I'm really excited. So, yay, we got a new healing spell. Nobody has enough. Like Hukami is the only person who has enough HP to warrant Wadanohara. Oh, I love these friends. No, I said the wrong word. This is tonight's issue instead of tonight's episode. Yes, yes, that's their faces. Just oh. I know, right? They're so cute. I'm glad. I hope we, except for the part where I'm beating them up and taking their lunch money. But they're very cute. I apologize. Oh, cool. From whom? I hope not. Twitch streams start muted. Is that what's up? Wait, have we fought you before? You're cute. No, look at their empty eyes. It's really yeah. I'd rather you just be mean. This is worse. Oh, huh. Okay. Well, hey, long as you're back. I don't know why I was telling you that out loud. If you couldn't hear anything, I'd be like, oh yeah, the Twitch stream starts muted. Like, well, that wouldn't really help you, would it? I'm gonna help you fix your audio issues by talking to you. No, thank you, friends. You're all good. Yeah. Ooh, look, it's scary here. See here, we have the nice... Yeah, no problem. Thank you. I appreciate the lurk regardless. Thank you. Thank you for showing up. See, we've got the nice, cool, calming blue lanterns for the rest of the sea. But here in the old sea, it's all dark and scary and red lanterns. Oh, it's so scary. I know, right? I'm so excited. I swear to God, like, I swear, my character's name was Bits long before I got on Twitch. I didn't consider this as as something I was going to be doing when I made the character. But yeah, I'm gonna thoroughly enjoy all the puns I can do with that. Aww, sprinkles, more sprinkles, with sprinkles. La, just bathing and like showering in them, just blah, blah, blah. Dang, what's this place? Creepy. I'm scared. Are you okay? Yeah. I'm not okay. Are you okay? I'm okay. You can hold my hand, okay? Okay. Opie is so baby. Oh, sneaky. Me too. Go ahead. He's like, oh. Wadanohara only has 2 hands. But only 2. Yeah. Alas. Oh, before I forget, I've been saving each one of these into a different data file for each day, just for the heck of it, so let's do that. Old sea, it's so spooky. I love the music here. It's like way too chill. What are these things? Also, there's no enemies here. There are no friends. Also, these look like eyeballs. Just saying. Look like spooky eyes. Let's see, this way maybe? Don't say that. They're not. Wait, no, I think it was the other way. Well, I think that way is plot. So let's try this way and see if we can get any treasure from the dead folks, I guess. Ah, okay. Just kidding. I like these things, though. Walk sprite, walk sprite. This is really tiny. Wait, no, I want treasure. Which way do we go for treasure? Oh. Oh, well, heck. Oh, screw it. It's fine. Maybe we'll get treasure on the way out or something. Oh, treasure! Yay! Okay. Are those items? Are they equipment? What? Oh, they're helmets. Isn't that a fish or a shell or something? Isn't it a shell? Whatever it is, it's tasty and we're wearing it on our heads. So, you know. So there's no music at all in this part. Dang it. Ooh, treasure. Give me the treasure. Oh, it's so spooky in here. Treasure. Yay! And watch it not be treasure. Is it gonna be a mogeko? Oh! Chili peppers. Do you want me to equip the chili peppers? No, there's dings, but there's no yeah, you're correct this time. It's not you. Oh, instead of Mr. Ant, we're going to wear chili peppers as an accessory. Okay. Pasta. We're pasta now. Okay. Yep. This is normal. Let's proceed. Do you eat chilies? You want a chili? Why are there so many of them in there? Hey, what are you guys doing in there? Alright, now this one's gonna be a Mogeko. Oh, what? I'm guessing that's a weapon? Oh, great. Scary weapon. Back. What? That's so satisfying, just so you know. Alright, well, great. Yeah, no, there's no sound here. We find it. We found it. Hi, everybody. Oh, Lord. Oh, okay, there's sound in this room. Let's stay in here for a second. This will be the last stone. Wow. So shiny. Well, it's over. Now, no one in all the sea will be in danger. Oh. All right. Well, all right. Game's over. Thanks, guys. All done. I'm done. Good work. Well done, Wadanohara. Yeah. Thanks for your help, guys. Thanks to Wada, the sea is peaceful again. See any more scary bunnies either. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Hey, what's wrong? You don't look too excited about being done. Oh, I was just thinking, fixing the stones won't fix the problem. Huh? Why not? This Totsusa kingdom attacked for a reason, right? Just because we keep them out doesn't mean they'll give up on trying to attack. Forget it. They don't listen to anything. They can't attack us if they can't get in, right? Just gotta stay put. Yeah. Most people never leave the sea anyway. But nothing to worry nothing to worry about, Wada. Do not be concerned. Stop having thoughts. Calm down in a millennium or so. Maybe. Yeah. Okay. Really? Yeah. Let's go back to town. Let's report to Princess Uomi. Report. Just don't think. Right. What did we agree on? No thoughts? Hello, boy. Hello. I think I'll let you do this. He's beached. Okay, thank you. Thank you, sweetheart. Thanks, King. Give us nothing. Stare time. It's love time. You have done well, Wadanohara. Now peace reigns once more in our kingdom. And no further worry of invasion from Totsusa Kingdom. Yes, Your Highness. Well, what about the guy who broke the stones? It's Samakichi, right? Surely. It is so scary. The shading over his eyes. Ooh. Scary shark. Yes. We'll be strengthening defenses to ensure this never happens again. Trainer sooner. Tree in one of the oh! Oh! Just the one? Just the one tree? That's kind of surprising. Why is it a tree? Just the one. Oh, you know. Tree. It's sharp, right? It's just a weird word, right? It's not a... It doesn't stand for anything. Thanks. Thanks. But he's so fast. He's really fast. In a word. I haven't perfected. I haven't worked on the Sal voice yet. I haven't made any progress here. Can't fucking much. I can't fucking do it. I wonder about Totsusa Kingdom. They won't be invading anymore, but we still have to be careful. Is that better? Is that better? Is that at least not Mickey Mouse anymore? Okay. See if I can recreate that ever. I don't know what I just did with my throat. In any event, you deserve a great rest for your great deeds. Understood. But I'm still sad. I can't. Wadanohara, you look down. No, it just sound like, what the fuck do I sound like? I guess now it's King Candy. You okay? Yeah, I'm fine. We're all safe thanks to you. So have some confidence. God, what is this? He's right. Everyone is grateful to you, Wadanohara. Oh. Yeah, what? Yeah. Oh, Fukami didn't even get any dots that time. He was so silent that he didn't even dots. Yeah, we're still not happy about it though. He's honestly gonna go in order and read everybody's things. Samakichi. Yeah. Good job. Okay. Get some rest, alright? Thank you, Princess Womi. The princess is quite satisfied. Well done, Wadanohara. Yay. Where's everybody? Hey. Oh, I guess they're back inside me. She's hiding all of her party members under her skirt. Yeah, everybody already left. Okay. Hi, everybody. There you are. I'm really glad that all ended up all right. Oh, no! Baby escape! Oh, oh my god, tiny! Too tiny for the baby gate. Yeah, really. Good job, Wada. Thanks to you, too. Now, get some rest. You, too. That's a threat. Wadanohara, you must be the most tired. Yeah. Wada, you gotta take it easy. Oh, I'm fine. You said it. Baby crimes. Baby on the run. Yep. No thoughts. This is fine, right? Oh. Yep. She is not. She's evading capture. Not innocent. Hello, children. Long plank. Not really in the mood for piano. Maybe I'll take a walk. The daycare manager. Yep. Hi, Fukami. No news is good news. Where is everybody? You're drawing! Alright, gonna draw an awesome Momeka. I'm drawing you, Wadanohara. Baby! Oh. Do we able to? Oh, we don't. Never mind. Wadanohara. Huh? That's me. What is it? Oh, nothing really. Where are you going? I was just thinking I'd take a walk. Oh, I see. Do you mind if I accompany you? Huh? Well, I don't mind. Let's go to the Sea of Stars, shall we? Okay. Do you mind if I accompany you, aka do you mind if I hijack your walk? Oh, okay. Clearly we live south of the walkway here. Let's go this way. There we go. Oh wait. Hey, Tatsumiya, hang on a second. I gotta go do some commerce. Let's only sell 3 of our ants. We're gonna keep 1 ant. We'll keep an ant. Alright. Oh yeah, wait. How many? Okay, we only have 5 keys? Okay. We're keeping a single ant in our pocket. Oh, baby. Oh, capitalism. Me. Not Wada, me. Oh, wait a second. Hang on, can we fight with Tatsumiya or is it just Wada? Ooh! Holy shit! Jesus. Oh. Right, she can't use magic. Good night! Oh no! Chimbus. Oh, baby. Yeah. Golly. Hello, friend. I'm not going to hurt you. Those starfish, though. Screw those guys. Wow, the view here is always so pretty. Yes. Say, Wadanohara. What is it? She's so much bigger. I've been thinking. I think you have the right to choose for yourself. I believe confirmed from the dev, she is not. We do not know who Wada's mom is. Wada is indeed short. That is true. Huh? You are the great sorcerer's kin, but you should not thus be bound here. If you wish to live your life how you like it, that's perfectly fine. Oh, you're her mom? Oh. Yeah. Well, remember, she's born from an egg. So. Maybe. Certainly, you're a superb witch, and very important to our sea. But you seem so distressed when I see you push yourself. I don't want you to feel that way. Wadanohara, our sea is not all. There's a much bigger world for you. Asamiya. I'm not bound to this sea. I'm here because I want to be. I love this sea. I was born here. It raised me. There's trouble here too, but that won't make me give up. It just makes my love for my home stronger. Please, don't say something so lonely. I'd be pained leaving you, Tatsumiya. I'm sorry. You're a stronger girl than I thought. It's just too worried. Sorry. No, I am. You're a wonderful witch. I am who I am now, thanks to you, Tatsumiya. Uh, Hi, Mom. Wadanohara, you're so kind. Oh, of course Tatsumiya's big. She's an oarfish. They're freaking huge. I mean, Wada's also small, but that's why she's an oarfish. Yeah. Huh? Oh, so cute. Perhaps you take after your father in that way. After your father? Yes. Great sorcerer was a very, very kind man. With his occasional goof, also like yourself. Oh, that's right. I nearly forgot the most important part. Huh? On the coming night of the full moon, we're holding a banquet at the castle. Banquet? Yes. I'd like you to invite Miss Klomaki if you could. I wish to give her my thanks for looking after you. Understood. But why this all of a sudden? Well, the barrier is repaired. Everyone did their part, so it's good to have some fun. You included, of course. You're right. Nothing bad's happened since then. Yes, for now. I hope it stays that way. Flap. Ice balls. Still not in a piano mood. Since the barrier is fixed, the sea has been peaceful. Is this really okay? I shouldn't mope. Right. Maybe I'll go out and play with everyone. Hi. Everybody. Oh my god, you're eating sushi. Oh Jesus. Oh god. Oh. Maybe it's not sushi. Hey guys. Want to go somewhere for a change of pace? Change of pace? Agreed. I've done enough drawing. Sure. Really? Well, where to? No! Somewhere we haven't gone to much would be nice. Like that chicken shop. What? Yeah, I know, right? Like, let's go somewhere. Where do we go? This was your idea. Huh? Well, what about, Rainbow Isle, was it? Perfect for a kind of change of pace thing, right? Rainbow Isle, that's perfect. It's just a little far, though. But the weather's good. Maybe we'll see some nice rainbows. Yay! Go, go, go! Oh. Roger. Okay. To the boat, everyone! Just gonna interrupt your lunch. You don't get to eat anymore. Hi. Move, or my body will soon dull. Okay. You just running or you're just running? Helga's dumber than I thought. Huh? Okay, I'm just gonna that's not my I'm not involved in that. Just gonna go. Yeah. Hello, fishy. Back to the surface. Yay, thank you. To the boat. Oh, hi, everybody. Rock, paper, scissors! Hi. Wadanohara. Yes? Are you still troubled? Huh? What would I be troubled about? No thoughts. Head empty. You certainly seem to be. Jeez, Mikami, you worry too much. I'm fine. Unconvinced. I lost again! Because you can't do scissors. Oh. Baby. I love that, like, Memoka didn't realize. Yeah. What? Yeah. Oh, I love this place so much. Okay. Oh, get ready for whoop. Are you ready? Whoop. 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 Whoop, 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 whoop. Bird. Bird and tree. Bird. So many balloons! Cute. I want to pop one. Bang! Hey. Okay. I know, right? This is so cute. The alright. I really gotta stop questioning the equipment here. Let's just equip our ham sausage shields. Very ordinary ham sausage shields. Yep. It's a very ordinary thing. Whip, 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 whip. Oh, good. Ooh. I think those aren't equipment. I think those are actually items. I'm so sorry to everyone who doesn't want to hear these little boop 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 boops, but I want treasure. I want that treasure so much. I'm so happy about that. So happy to be wearing that. I'm assuming it's a helmet. Great. Not particularly cursed. Then why is it called? Ah. Okay, good. This way? Oh, okay. Doesn't matter. Oh, it does matter. Oh, heck. Slap, 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 slap. Nope, anyway. Anyway. Moving on. Hey! Memoka! Stop popping the balloons! Don't do it! A key! Yay! Oh god, are we missing one? Oh, I think we're missing one. No! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7! Scream! Hello? Flamaki? They're here on a date, you jerks! Huh? Wadanohara? Oh, Wadanohara! Good date! That's funny. Come to see the rainbows, you gay bitch? Yes, we did. For a change of pace. I'm just escorting selfish old Lapko. You said you wanted to see them first, Lady Clomaki. Was that how it went? Yeah. Don't have to hit me over everything, okay? Yeah, we're really glad we're Wada's familiars. Yeah. Oh, right. Glumaki, they're having a banquet at Seagod Castle. You should come. Huh? Really? I wonder. No one told me about that. Must have been some miscommunication. I never forgot about me. No, of course not. Lapco Hill. Of course not. They might have. I mean, you barely come home. Gotta die now. Emilka! Sophie, what is it? See a rainbow. Huh? Wow. Oh, wow, there it is. Pretty. Wow. Thank you, King. Sparkly. Wow. It's like my stress is just melting away. You got stress? Well. Oh, babies. Hey, Dolph, did you know? If you wish on a shooting rainbow, your wish comes true. Shooting rainbow. That's a thing. And everyone was confused. Did you mean shooting star? No expression. Don't worry about it. Slug attack! Slug attack! Stop it! Oh, these really slugs! Oh, they're rather big for slugs! Slug attack! Stop! Toby is so cute. How long till they're shooting rainbows? Sure you can. Yes, you can. Aww. I love seeing Klomaki in more detail. She's so cute. I think this was the point like on my first playthrough, I think this was the point I finally realized Klomaki's supposed to be a cat. I just didn't notice the cat ears the whole goddamn time. I was like, oh, ah, the rainbow's so pretty. Huh? Yeah. Do you like rainbows, Klomaki? The dresses in all black? Huh? Hate them. You hate them? Yeah, awful. Why is that? They're so pretty. Oh, they're pretty. Very. Yeah. What? But they remind me of the past. Hmm? I used to live somewhere where you saw lots of rainbows. Really? Yeah. Well, that was a long time ago. I don't think anybody, like, ages or dies here. I think is my understanding. Yeah, I think she is. Hey, so when's this banquet anyway? The next night of the full moon. Gotcha. Huh. So you see guys do that too. Yeah. 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 Rather frequently, actually. Really? Claiming some reason or another. Because everyone likes to party. Steve me. But no fried chicken. I don't drink, though. Ah, I see. Neither can I. It's funny when I forced you to, though. Please don't do that. It's awful. Well, Tell them we're coming. Understood. Oh. Yay. Okay, bye. Well, glad we could see a rainbow too. Yeah, it was refreshing. Shooting rainbow. Let's play some more while we're out. I want to go to Warp Roach Isle. Huh? It's pretty far. Who cares? Let's go. Go. I don't mind. Yeah. Okay, let's go. Hi. Sorry, water, we're going, please. Played too much. They all tuckered themselves out. When I was little, Tatsumi always got mad at me when I came home late. Though I haven't been playing that late these days anyway. No, actually, back then. I have to be cryptic now. I still believe. Still believe. Oh, baby. Oh, wait a second. Let me grab. Okay. I got a screenshot. I have an idea what I'm gonna do next time. Anyway. Did you do the Windows trick or did you go find those? And soon the night of the full moon arrived. Hey, nice. I was doing that earlier today. We have learned a thing. Ah, water, you were supposed to do dots for a while. I was hydrating. Okay. Feeling good today. Oh, but it's almost time. All right, gotta get ready. Done. It's almost time, everybody. Are you ready? Oh, I'm ready. I'm okay. Fine. Okay, then let's go. I guess we're going this way that we're pointing. How did we get here so quickly? Hello. A warp jellyfish. No, I'm good. No, I'm good. I'm good. Where we're supposed to be. Thank you. Yeah. I guess we're not going that way or this way. I guess let's just go this way, shall we? Everybody's here. They're all so cute. You've been through a lot, huh, Wadanohara? Monero, you liar. Oh, right. I think Monero's drunk as fuck. Yeah. I know my drink super well. I don't remember Monero's voice. Oh, right. Hello. DSP is here. Hello. And the healer. I love seeing everybody who's sitting next to each other. Oh, look at his nuts, dude. What about them? I couldn't resist. Well, I guess she always kind of is. Elika's such a lightweight, and she's always drinking. Hello, baby. Never mind. I'm not reading that out loud. Wadanohara, have some fun. Oh yeah, I'm the coordinator. Wadanohara, forget about the usual for today and have fun. Yeah, yeah. Used to it, but drunk Elika is pretty gross. Oh, I thought she was important. I thought she was gonna do that. Oh, anyway, wait. We have to go over here to the best folks. My husband's doing better, so I can fully enjoy today. I'm so glad. Here, Cherry Blood, how are you doing? I can't get through the tables. 1 second, please. Grab! Oh. You talk. You don't just say crab crab? Kinda disappointed. Hi, Cherry Blood. Hey, Wadanohara. Cherry Blood, have you healed already? Yeah, more or less. Can't do any, sudden motions. Oh, please don't overdo it. Just random people. Yay, banquet time. Oh, yeah, there were seats for everybody. I forgot. I was like, why are there so many empty seats? I'm a dumbass. Everybody came with me. They were under my skirts. Oh, I totally skipped that for some reason. Sure is. Oh, I wonder if I should drink too. No, sir, no. Oh, honey, no alcohol. You haven't fully healed, yes? I was carrying them on my shoulders. Guess so. Too bad. Mother, don't be rash. It's fine. Cherry Blood is break. I'll eat. It's been rough. So we have to enjoy days like these all the more. Hey, the coordinator's saying something. What? Oh, everyone's here. I'm the coordinator. Heck, dude. All right. Done. Speech over. Never mind. Look, it's doing it again. Everyone, please enjoy yourselves. A toast to peace in our sea. Hey, that's my job. Come by. Elika? Yeah, Elika's always been up there in the... Oh, good point. I guess she's in the other room or something. But yeah, Helika's always been in the princess's room with her. She just is also dating Miura and Seguro. The sea dwellers had a very festive banquet. Yay! Yeah, probably, yeah. She's strong. I'm gonna take a break. Let's go outside for a bit. This is a lot, actually. Let's leave. Yeah. No. So yeah. Ah, so that happens. Lots of peeps like that among witches, actually. Not so many honest girls like Wadanohara. Indeed. Perhaps she is a little odd, thinking of it in that way. Raised with care, I'm sure. Yes, with sea dwellers all around her. Come to think of it, where's Wadanohara's father kicking it now? Or kicking it now. Here we go. Yes, I suppose I would have to tell you the story sooner or later. Yep. Huh? It was a long time ago. Long, long ago, there was a king of our sea, great sea god. and his two princesses, his daughters. At that time, the sea was a very beautiful, peaceful world. But the sea god fell into a deep, deep slumber. No one knows why. When the sea god vanished, rule was to pass to the princess. But there were two princesses. One of them had to be chosen. The sea god chose Princess Womi. The other princess could not accept his choice, and so she used her power to dye the entire sea with death. Of course, the two princesses warred. The sea dwellers took sides, and a great struggle began. Yep. The sea stormed, all were hurt, and death prevailed. It was a hellish scene. One person stood to put a stop to the carnage. That was Wadanohara's father, the great sorcerer. Hi, Dad. The sorcerer used a powerful spell to seal away the other princess and her followers. With that spell, we took back our sea. But all that remained was the cast pearl. The great sorcerer was nowhere to be found. Perhaps the power that went into that spell was too great. So, the people here now were the ones who sided with Womi. Yes. I served the great sorcerer. Until Wadanohara was a full-fledged witch, I used what he had taught me, his spells, and protected the sea. Ah, I see. So you were managing the barrier. Yes. So this is what they were talking about. Wait, but when was this? Wadanohara's still a kid. I was thinking it. Yes, Wadanohara was born from an egg, long after peace returned to us. Oh, an egg, huh? Yes, a beautiful egg, round like the full moon. Once she was born, I taught her everything the great sorcerer taught me. Yeah, just a human, a person that came out of an egg. It's fine. That we don't know where the egg came from, but we know that for some reason we know that it's Wadanohara's father's egg. I see. Huh. Yes. Except for that spell. Yeah, that's not ominous. Oof. I think I'll walk around over there. Over yonder. Let's go over yonder. Oh, not this yonder, though. Different yonder. Yep, that's not that yonder. Let's go this yonder. Okay, this was the correct yonder. Hey. Huh? Sup? Samikichi! Thought the town was quiet. What are you all doing? Huh? Everyone's having a banquet at the castle. Huh? Hey, Wadanohara? Huh? What the heck? Oh! What the heck is... It's fine. Huh? What was that? Hey. Bye. Samikichi! Wait, where are you going? Back here, you speedy bastard! I know, right? He literally said, hey. Samikichi! Is it this way? Good. He was just like stalking around this empty ass town, like, where is everybody? You're not even supposed to be here. He's so fast! He is so fast. Wait, Samikichi! What the? Things look weird above. I'll check the gate. I actually don't know if it's specified. Probably is. I'd have to check the wiki. Hey, crabs, you guys didn't seem okay. One of you was upside down. Samikichi! What's wrong? Are you okay? Stay away. Wadanohara. Are you the sea witch? Huh? Nice to meet you. Who? I'm a demon employed by Totsusa Kingdom. Call me Laurentia. Totsusa Kingdom? Yes, indeed. Now then, I'll be getting to work right away. What? You can't do that! You can't enter the Sea Kingdom! Yes, I can. Huh? Hey, remember all that work we just did? The thing around your kingdom should have just broken. My body. Wadanohara, what's... Uh, my, it's just as I was told. Please, rest a while. Or flop. Wadanohara! Well done, Laurentia. According to plan. The honor's all mine. Yep. I can't. I don't know if I can. I gotta channel my best mega. I'm trying to figure out how to differentiate his voice from like Gia. Got what Mega did to do the difference of the two. Well done, princess. Well done. Dad loves to see you happy. Now, let's go. No. Just you wait, Uomi. You're next on my list. She's so cute. She's supposed to be evil, but she's so cute. Yeah, it's fine. Everything's fine. Look how peaceful the sea is. It's fine. It's all good. It's fine. Baby. It is now time for my voice box to absolutely hate me. Wadanohara. A baby. Oh, morning, Samikichi. What, were you up already? Jeez, wake me up. You were just sleeping so soundly, though.
Well, swam quite a bit yesterday.
Are you okay?
It's no big deal. So, what'll it be today?
Well, there's an island I'd like to visit. It's called Apple Isle.
Oh, there? Kind of a ways. Better get moving, huh?
Yeah. A boy! Here comes the boy! Look at him! He's so cute. I haven't decided. Let's do this one. We have just a save file for just this section because it's so cute. Okay. Oh wait, go back in. I want to see what this room looks like when there's not children in it. What are you guys doing here? Absolutely nothing. Understood. Oh, wait. I'm just gonna sit there like a chick. You're so cute.
Wadanohara,
Yes?
what do you do on Apple Isle? Nothing there but apples.
Well, there's a big apple tree way in the back. And there's a spell I want to try using its apples.
Making apple pie or what?
I can make apple pie without any magic.
Huh.
You want apple pie?
No, not really.
Oh?
Just hang on. Fall off like last time, okay?
Be fine.
Really?
Baby.
Apple Isle should be around here.
All right, let's go. So cute. Gonna do battle with them. Damn. He's so strong. Thanks. I'm gonna be doing every single battle. More Samakichi content. Shark attack. Shark fang. Shark fin punch. Oh no. Just do shark attack. Bam. That'd be fun. Whee! Is that why she fell off? Oh. Look at. I'm so fast. Heck yes. Yes, I am battling all of them because I want to show all of Samakichi's attacks. Shark fin punch. Oh, bye! It's like a drive-by, like, hook. It's like a drive-by right hook. Apple time! Apple, apple, apple. Look, lots of apple trees. You're hungry, huh?
No.
Look at apples. So cute. And all the flowers. Oh, there's no stuff over there. Fine. Caterpillars exterminated, but you need those. No. Lots of apples. The fact that he has a drool sprite. He just looks staring at the apples. Really hungry, huh? Not hungry. I know, right? The worms. Oh, hello. Bird. Okay. Great. Got some sunglasses. Put them on, put them on, put them on. Where do they go? We're not putting that on. Oh, you don't get to wear them? Aww. Shark glove. Glove. Glove? Glove. 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 Just gotta think about this for a bit. Is this the tree? Oh, heck. Hang on. There was another way to go then. Glove. Oh, fair enough. I mean, it is a shark. Didn't try this way yet. A treasure. Hey. Some pho? You mean pho? Like the soup? Where? Oh, there it is. Oh, okay. Sure. Hello, tree. There, this is the tree.
Oh, bigger than the others. The apples on it too. What are you doing?
I can't reach.
Yeah, I'll get it.
Oh, look at the big ass apple with her cute little face.
There. That enough?
Yeah, thanks.
Such a shorty.
She is, that is true. I'm a grown girl.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
Growing.
Why not use magic to grow taller, huh?
Would be sort of unfulfilling.
Oh, really? So, what are you doing with these apples that you wanted so bad?
Well... It's not actually for magic. Irina asked me to get them.
Huh?
But if I told you the truth, I figured you wouldn't come with me, Samakichi.
No, duh. That stupid mermaid sending you to do dumb errands for her again?
It's not like that. Mermaids like Irina don't have legs, so they can't...
Get her back into it and grow some legs, why don't she?
Forgot about that one. Sir, I got bad news for you about legs. That's asking a bit much.
Both of you.
It's fine. We can go lots of places together this way. What's up?
Yeah, whatever. I'll forgive you. This time.
You pulled that? I'm gonna sublimate.
Oh, this man.
I love him. Well, right, you're hungry, right?
Not necessarily.
Try some of these apples. They're delicious, I hear.
I prefer meat.
All meat diet is bad for you.
Haven't had any problems with it all my life.
Oh, don't say that. Here, I'll try. Tasty. What? Something on my face?
Spider. Just kidding.
Jeez. just staring at her face because she's cute.
Fine, if you insist. Ow.
Why did you eat it whole? Are you okay?
Oh, I thought I was dead.
Samikichi, don't I always tell you to chew your food?
I know that. So, anywhere else you want to go today?
Huh?
Yeah, well, he's a shark that almost choked on an apple, so... And no errands.
They're not errands.
Don't suppose you took on some other requests?
Grapes and peaches.
Can't you say no? All right, let's go.
Oh, where?
Wherever. Just anywhere that isn't for some dumb errand.
They're not dumb and they're not errands.
Baby.
He's a baby.
He's so friggin' soon. I'm gonna die. He's so very tsundere.
Oh no!
Rip. Wadanohara.
Yes?
Can't you, fly around on a broom?
Fly? I do sometimes, but not much. And I like the sea.
Isn't broom flying sort of a fundamental element of the whole witch action?
Well, yeah. Though I think some witches just fly without a broom.
Never seen any but you, so can't imagine. What are they like?
Well, I've never met many other witches either. But there is one witch who comes to see me sometimes. Next time she said she'll take me to the witch world.
What the? That's a thing? Swarms of witches?
Yeah. I've only heard about it, but there are lots of witches. Oh, but they fight sometimes, it seems like.
Against what?
Between each other, apparently.
Why?
It's, quarreling.
Their witches are just that quick-tempered, huh?
I think that's true.
Sheesh. I don't want to meet any other witches.
You never know when you might bump into one.
Stop it.
Babies. Babies. Oh, we haven't gone this way much.
Yeah? Maybe if you didn't take on so much of people's busy work.
I appreciate the concern, Samikichi, but I do it because I want to help, you know?
Huh? No, it's not that. I just hate that stupid goldfish.
She's not a goldfish, she's a mermaid.
Practically the same to me.
I think they're pretty different.
Nope, small and fins. Very edible. Wait, I want to get him to do the rire again.
Arr. I love him so much. Ah.
So angry. We're feeding him.
He was hungry. We're feeding him. Hmm? Meow. Nyan nyan. Exclamaki.
Romaki?
No, Clomaki. The witch I told you about.
Huh? Which?
Nyan nyan nyan. Huh? Oh. Huh. If it ain't Wadanohara. Long time no see, Clomaki. Sure is. Why are you here? We're just going around. Why are you on this tree? Same thing, really. Not like I got blasted away here. Ooh, it's a nice place. Very quiet.
Man, that witch is pitch black from head to toe.
Oh, and that's your shark familiar, huh? Yes, Samikichi. Read her, Samikichi. Huh, a fish.
Shut up! I apologize for calling me fish.
Huh? Am I wrong?
What?
Samikichi, why are you mad? Once wondered aloud about having a fish instead of a lobster. And Lopko cried. Natch. Oh, is Lopko doing well? Yeah, she's fine. Almost got lobster fried earlier, though.
Is there shark fry too?
Probably not, no.
Yeah, don't read my mind.
Huh? I have heard of grilled shark, though.
Look at how much I care.
Well, anyway. Wadanohara, I've told you before, but... You should be getting a letter from her soon. Oh, and then I'll be back, too. Understood.
Huh? Her who?
Told you about the witch world, right? We're talking about the most important witch there. Huh?
Are there lots like this chick? In this witch world place?
Samikichi, that's rude. Oh, there are lots far crueler than me.
Never want to go then.
Oh, do come.
Ow!
Samikichi! Your familiar's fun, Wadanohara. Huh? To tease, I mean.
You making fun of me?
Well, I'm satisfied. I'd better go back now. All right. Wadanohara, Shark Boy, take care. Yes, take care.
Is she vanished?
Yeah, I want to be able to do that too.
You can do that?
Well, not yet. Are you even listening?
Witches are scary, man.
Huh? Not at all.
Let's just call it a day.
Oh? Okay, bye. Guess we're going this way. Maybe I'll play some piano when we get home.
You sure love piano, huh?
Yeah. So soothing. I wish I could carry my piano with me everywhere.
Not a chance.
Yeah. Portable instruments must be nice. So you can play anywhere. Oh. The .I round crew. Oh, those apples were really, really good. Hanako gave rave reviews too. Yeah, really tasty.
were before.
I'm glad. Thanks, Wadanohara. Thank you. Yeah, just ask anytime.
Best stop ordering Wadanohara around.
Oh my, someone's jealous. No one's taking Wadanohara, don't worry.
What? I don't know what you're talking about.
Gosh, you're so shy.
Wrong idea.
Huh? Wadanohara, Tanko wanna thank you. Found some good things over that way. Really? Samikichi, you come too.
I'm fine.
Really? Ajikichi seems to be what's called naive right now. He keeps replacing the same, which is shark, in Samekichi with different fish. So right now he's tuna kichi.
Shut up. Go do whatever it is you're doing.
Samekichi, don't yell. Tenkichi, so mean. Okay, Wadanohara, let's go. Yeah. Oh, I wish I could have those apples again.
Hey.
Hmm?
What do girls...
Huh?
What makes girls happy to get as a present?
We're just gonna stare at each other for a good 10 seconds. Dear, a present for Wadanohara? Oh, this lady killer.
Shut up!
Well, has Wadanohara mentioned wanting anything?
Wanting something? Yeah, I guess she did imply she wanted a portable instrument.
Portable instrument? Well, maybe that would work. Let's see.
That'd make her happy?
Of course. Overjoyed. And Nekoyama should be above right now, yes? Go ask him.
Got it.
Ooh. How charming. It's this way. Where are we going? Oh, lots of chests deep in the sea of stars. Chests? Yeah. Oh, keep a secret from Minero and them. Minero Tachi. You got it. Okay, go. Yeah. Is Tadako in my party now? No, he doesn't count. Hi, Haluka. What's up? Oh. Don't. I think it's over here. Excuse me. Hello, friends. Love you guys. Hello, sunfish. A chest! Raw trash fish. Great. Got Samikichi in a chest. Where the heck's... Hello, everyone. Too bad, nothing inside. There seems to be something in this one. Let's not open that one. See, lots of chests. There's an ass. Help me. Sam? Huh? Oh, good. We've rescued him. Ew, man, what a relief. Thanks a lot. Sal, what happened here? Well, Tatsumiya asked me to sort out some empty chests. Oh, but while carrying them, I lost my balance and fell down here. We're literally underwater. And then when I tried to move them, I tripped and got my head stuck. Are you okay? Not hurt? I'm fine, thanks.
The chests.
Huh? These are just empty. Tanaka must have happened to see you drop the chest, Sal, and went from there.
So you mean there's no treasure?
Yeah. Huh? What?
Oh, don't cry, Tanako.
Yeah, what do we do? I know. You two can ride on my back. I'll take you for a drive. Come on, don't be shy.
Really? That sounds great. Right, Tanako?
No, they're so cute. And we're off.
Wow, so fast.
Swordfish has me beat, but I can swim pretty quick. Let's go.
Wow. So pretty. Wow.
Group of sea fireflies.
Wow, they're like stars.
Feeling better, Tarako?
Yeah, Tanako's fine now.
Good.
I wanted to give you a present. Sorry I couldn't do that, Wadanohara.
Oh, it's fine.
I'm really glad for the thought anyway.
Besides, I got to see a wonderful view. Oh, great.
Thanks, Sal.
No problem at all. I'd do anything for you.
Oh.
And for Tarako too, of course.
Oh. Huh? That's Tatsumiya.
Huh? Oh, it is.
Huh?
The little landing sound. She's sleeping. Don't bother her. Sir.
Tatsumiya!
Huh? Oh!
Tatsumiya, what is it?
Well, I was just going for a stroll. But what are you all doing here?
Sal took us for a drive.
Did he? By the way, Sal, did you finish your task? Oh.
Huh?
Oh, man. I just left the chest in the sea of stars. I gotta go.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Sal.
No, it's fine.
Well, I'll help too.
Huh?
And thanks for the drive.
Oh, really? Would you really?
Even to Tanako.
All right, let's go.
Thanks for today. Take care.
Yeah, see you.
See you.
Wadanohara. You weren't with Samakichi today? Oh, I left him in town. Oh, I should get back. Wonder if he's sulking again. Leave him alone. He's just sad about it. Huh? I'm sorry. It's just charming. How wonderfully well you two get along. Hmm? Never mind. Well, go find Samakichi now. Sure. Truly glad that she doesn't have to feel lonely. Truly, truly glad. Unlike me. Though she never voices it, I'm sure, in truth. No, maybe it's just me. Me? Oh. Music just ends there on her in silence. Jeez. Hi, baby. Oh, I see. So? Naturally, I can prepare one. I forgot what I did for his voice. Oh, let's do like an onion night. That suits him. Good. I'll, do it. Samakichi, use your words. He's so bad at conversations with people. It always is like so awkward. A present for you, dear. This lady killer. Shut up! I'll eat you whole. Oh yes, very, very scary. Can't help getting serious when it comes to love, eh? What did I say? I loved Wadanohara. Oh my. And who said anything about Wadanohara? It was so cute. Why the embarrassment? I've known you have a fondness for Wadanohara for ages. Really? Yes, it's appallingly obvious. Seriously? In fact, I do believe everyone knows. Yes, quite apparent. 1,000 fish in the sea would all say they know, I say. No way. It's literally everyone except Wadanohara. My dude. Nothing worth hiding. Not that you are, really. Young love blossoms. Wonderful, wonderful. You insulting me? Not at all. I understand the feeling well. I once had a most fleeting love. Could you tell me more? I've no work to do today. Really? Yes. Baby. Well, when I woke up this morning, she tells him. The sun's setting. Indeed it is. Too much useless babble. Not useless. I quite enjoyed listening. You are making fun of me, aren't you? I beg to differ.
Samakichi, where are you?
Wadanohara? Speak of the devil. Now, please endure until my next delivery day. Yeah, I'm begging you. I am aware. So long.
No.
you are. I was looking.
Huh? Yeah. Wadanohara.
I heard in town you'd gone up and hadn't come back.
Fixed your temper, Samikichi?
Huh? I wasn't in a bad temper to begin with.
Oh?
Hmm. Hey.
Hmm?
You wanna go somewhere?
Sure. Hey, Samikichi,
What?
how far are we going?
Who knows? Haven't decided.
So the usual.
Yeah.
He's so bad. There's a smile on the end. Ah! Wow, I never knew the view here was so nice.
Yeah.
Night already. Stayed up late again.
Well,
Fine. Hmm. Hey,
huh?
before I met you, Natsumi always got mad and told me not to stay up late.
Yeah, she's surprisingly strict. But, did you really want to stay up that bad?
Not necessarily. Just, I like to see the sea after the sunset. The full moon and sea. When I see them together, I can feel truly calm. I'm not sure why, but it gives me a really nostalgic feeling. Yet it's something I always feel right beside me. Somehow it's both. Strange, huh? Even I'm not sure what I'm saying anymore.
Huh.
Yeah.
Where you met me, huh? Were you even shorter then?
Jeez, here you go again. Well, I wasn't that much different from now, I think. But since meeting you, I feel like my days are different. I lived very happily with everyone in the sea around me. But I'm even happier now. I wish it could always be like this.
Yeah, me too.
Really? Glad.
So freaking cute. But isn't it lonely? How you can't meet your old man? Says Samikichi, do you know your father?
Honestly, I do feel like that a little sometimes. But I don't know why, but I almost never feel lonely. Never seen his face, so maybe it's harder to feel like he's gone? On the other hand, I know a lot about my father from what people have said. And you see, have this feeling someday I will meet him.
I hope you do.
Yeah. Gosh, I've been carrying the conversation, huh? Like always. Pretty embarrassing.
Sorry. I just,
Samikichi,
What?
it's alright. You don't need to worry about me so much. Because now I have you right here.
Really cut it?
Of course you do. You're my familiar. I chose you. He blush you. What's this now?
Never mind. Don't worry about it. Wadanohara. Next time there's a full moon, can we go to Star Isle? It's beautiful from there.
Really? Yeah, let's go. Babies. Your little Pete's. He is waiting. He is waiting. He is waiting. Hi!
Huh? Takichi, still waiting?
And if I am?
Mikoyama comes in the evening today, you know.
So what?
And stare at each other.
Are you going to wait all the way till evening? Tabakichi, so impatient.
Stop getting my name wrong.
Tsunakichi.
Ah!
Hello.
Yeah, the view there is great.
It's a wonderful place for getting to look over the entire sea.
Oh, is it really? I'll go there next time.
Huh? Are you not with Samikichi today?
Yes, he said he had business and he'd be back by evening.
Just looking at you two makes me smile.
Yep.
Huh?
You two really get on well.
Yeah, people say we're more like friends than him, my familiar.
No, not like that.
Huh?
The most oblivious person in the entire sea.
Honey, Wadanohara's a bit slow. She'll catch on soon enough.
Right.
Okay, bye! Thanks for calling me slow. I'll just go this way now. Hey, everybody.
What's the land like? I can't even live outside of the sea, dude. I can't move at all on land.
Fair enough.
You're a squiggle.
Might be able to squirm a little.
I'm lost. Oh, hi, everyone.
Red light. Green light. If you lose, you're punished. Mineta, I mean. So... Oh, that's right. Tatsumiya told me to come to the castle today. Okay, let's go.
All of us. Hi, castle. Glad we teleported here. Whoop. Whoop.
Hello. Sorry to make you wait, Tatsumiya.
Wadanohara, sorry to call for you so suddenly.
What happened?
The Sacred Sword's location has been moved to the location in the Old Sea. Only we and the princess know about this. Cautionary measure as the time approaches.
Understood.
Wadanohara, you must not approach that place. To say nothing of allowing anyone else in.
Yes, I understand.
Once something happens, it will be too late. Sorb. Sword.
Okay, bye. I know about sword now. Thank you. Yes, that's exactly how I was intending to spell sword. Thank you.
I informed Wadanohara. I see. That is a relief. Will it be all right? What? Only you and her can open that entrance, yes?
What? Oh my gosh! Hi! Hi, Florence! This is my bro! Welcome! Hi, everybody! Thank you for raiding! Oh boy! Hi! Yay! Rose raid! Pretty!
You were playing Bendy, right? I don't know if you were doing that the whole time. I saw you go live. I was at work. I was lurking a tad at lurk. I was lurk.
Thank you for raiding!
How was Bendy? And anything else you might have done, let me know. Oh no, emojis!
Princess,
We're playing some Wadanohara. Oh dang, that's pretty far. Wait, did you? You had just started, right? That was pretty far. I think there's only 5 total. So stuff's gotten real. Heck yeah. Oh, you met my wife too. I think she's chapter 3, if I'm not mistaken. Ah, oh, my beloved. Heck yeah. The time rapidly draws near. We are playing some Wadanohara. I am really poorly attempting to voice act everyone. Um, and it's about to get real.
Princess is cautious as well.
So this is not the princess speaking. This is the little fishy on her head. This is Gia.
It will be fine, so long as we have that magic left for us.
Tatsumiya is mom, and she is not convinced that we will be fine. Ah, nice. Yeah. Yeah, I remember seeing you use the cute one with
Oh, really? Oh my gosh. Oh man. This is one of my favorite games. It's very, very indie. Like the only reason I'm playing this game right now is because I'm not affiliate yet. The creator's request was that the game, like playthroughs of the game, not be monetized in any way. So that's why I'm doing this as my affiliate push game. So I won't play this again, you know, after I already make affiliate or anything like that. But yeah, the full title is Wadanohara and the Great Blue Sea, and it is a RPG Maker horror game that is exceedingly cute until it's exceedingly creepy. So, and it's a really, really good story, and all of the characters are extremely lovable, and I love this game so much. So excited. Yeah, I really appreciate that you have like the cutesy model and a hot boy model. That's great. Yeah, with Animal Crossing. Yeah. That's what I saw. I keep like lurking while I'm at work, and I should say something, but every time I do, I like have to put the phone down. Yeah, it is. I don't know. It's still kind of cute, even when it's not. So, which is like exactly my jams. So, and this is our main character. Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. I think Omori has like kind of that round style too. I haven't played Omori. I have it on my wish list though. I need to do that. I need to check it out. Yeah, it is. I would like for this to be my brand. Yeah, you're a model feed, don't you? How many do you have, 2 or 3? I know you have multiple, like I love the idea of having multiple forms. That's so cool. I want to do something like that. Like this one kind of like this cat bean mode that I have right now as my PNG tuber. And then like then I have like the boy that Papa's making. And I want to have like just like a cat boy. Would be ideal. Kind of like how you have. I think that's a good idea. That's really cool. Yeah, your internet's back. Yay! We got raided by my bro. Solaris is here. You're here. Okay, so right now we're in a flashback. Samikichi is who we think is the bad guy who is doing all of this nasty stuff that's happening. But right now we're in a flashback, and Samikichi is Wadanohara's familiar. Wadanohara is a witch, and Samikichi is her familiar. And Samikichi is in love with her, and she's completely oblivious because she has no thoughts head empty. So she has no idea. And I think there's about to be like a really friggin' cute romance scene. So, well, insofar as Wadanohara's empty brain is capable of romance. Very smooth brain. Oh, let me see. Hang on. I forgot to do. I didn't give you a shout out for the raid. Uh-oh. Oh. What just happened? Oh my goodness. Uh-oh. I can't see mod view. What the heck just happened? I have no idea. Was it a link? I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I'm sure it was an accident. Can't even see what happened. Let me see. I can head over to my stream view. Okay. Sorry about that. I don't know what just happened. Okay, as long as you're not timed out anymore. It's good. At least it's only 30 seconds. That's manageable. All right.
Samikichi should be coming back soon.
Let's go find him.
Hello, there he is. There's the boy. Oh, Samikichi.
Uh-oh. Oh, of weird mod things? Yeah, that's fair. Wait, I never gave you a shout out. Hang on. Let me get this. Let me make sure that works. Yay, there we go. Yeah, see, Butters, my bro, is playing Bendy. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you know, like the underwater. Yeah, it's denser. Yeah, that's it. That's why.
You're back already?
Oh, yeah.
Knew I was here often, huh?
I asked in town, since you weren't there.
There's water! That's it! There's the water! There's the water at the bottom of the ocean! We found it! There's water at the bottom of the ocean! That's it! That's it!
They told me you came here.
Thanks for coming to see me.
Yeah.
Let's go back.
Right.
We found it. We found the water at the bottom of the ocean. We are underwater. Why is there a river there? I don't think I ever thought about that. Eyes balls. It's the eyeball crew. It's stare at you time. Oh, baby, don't sleep here. This is the floor. Sweetie. Don't sleep here. Oh, no. Oh.
Hey, Wadanohara, shouldn't we be going?
Wow, a lot of time passed while I was thinking. Definitely thinking and not sleeping on the floor. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. My character, I am Bits, and my character is made of candy. It's not really obvious from this right now, but it will be. I am entirely made of candy. Boy, I sure hope no one takes a bite out of me, haha. Oh wait, we always have to look in the mirror. Look how cute she is. She's so cute. No! Thank you. Same.
Thought you fell asleep.
Yeah, me too.
Sorta.
Yes! Oh my gosh. Yeah, isn't Emma doing another model, I think? I'm excited. I think that one's after me. Cat and Cabbage just recently debuted. Yay!
Sorta. I was just spacing out.
Well, let's go.
Right. Yeah, you have all kinds of like half siblings. Well, I guess they're not half siblings, it's just more siblings. I think we are going to the Sea of... Aww! You guys having like a class? Oh, we're just a band. Oh, you guys are wait, you guys are a band and one of you... Oh, okay, yeah. We're forming a band called the Fish Four. Fish class. I said that, didn't I? Fish class. Yeah, you know, that thing of what the group of fish is called. A class. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. That's awesome. Oh, heck yeah. Oh, man, mood. You can get a some legit something to really celebrate there. I feel that.
All right, hold on tight.
Oh, let's take it slow.
Don't say that while the screen's blacked out. Come on, man. I don't know where we're going. Where are we going? Look how freaking cute we are, though. This is so pretty at night. Oh my goodness. Okay, it's not this way, I guess. That is a good point. That's a very good point. She is. Bless her. She's so oblivious. You're so cute. She's swimming. She's like, he's swimming because he has a shark form, and she's riding on like his back. I love him. Yeah.
Oh, good thing it's a clear day.
Yeah. Yeah.
He has a different dog sprite when he's in shark form, but I love him. And the fact that her little cheeks are in her sprite when there's so little room, but we had to get her cute little pink cheeks.
Wow. It's all dark and the stars are all lit up. Wow.
Wait, there's nothing over here, right? There was last time, but I don't think there will be this time. Yeah, okay, fine. Go focus on the plot, you filthy treasure hunter. There's less frames than that. Oh god, oh no. That's fair. They look very eatable.
Oh wow, the moon's so beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
It really does soothe the heart to look at. It always has. What is it, Samikichi?
Well, it's been a while since I met you.
Yeah, lots happened. He's so nervous.
Why did you choose me?
Why? Curious all of a sudden? Oh, why curious all of a sudden? There we go.
He is dying. He is dying slowly.
What? Let's see.
You just go ahead and take your time thinking and let him just die. You just let him stew in this. It's fine. It's fine. He's not dying. He's not currently, like, boiling to death on the inside. It's fine.
Huh? No, it's not like there was no reason. I just can't express it in words very well, I guess. I don't know why. But when I first saw you, I thought, I want to be with him.
That was more than you were expecting to get, wasn't it, honey? Is that still true? You thought you could fix it? I don't even think she thinks he's dumb, because she's way dumber. So it's not even like, morosexual.
Yeah, of course.
I feel the same way.
Really? Bless you. Yeah. I'm really glad I met you, Samikichi.
Yeah.
Though I thought you were scarier at first.
My bad. Kinda blunt, I know.
Well, I think that's a good thing about you. So blushy.
Wadanohara.
Oh, the music stopped. It's so dramatic now.
So grateful to you. She's so not getting it.
To you too.
No, not like that. Take this.
Huh? Look how big he is.
She's so small. She's so small. But he's so cute. He's so... Everyone is so much taller than her. She's so cute. Oh, Jesus. She's just really short. What?
An ocarina?
Yeah. You said you wanted a portable instrument, right? What's that?
Samikichi.
What? An accordion. No, that's you.
I'm so happy. This is wonderful. Can I really?
Of course. I got it just for you.
Samikichi.
she's so cute. She's so happy.
Thank you. I'll treat it well. Babies. They're both babies. I love them. And smile. Do smile, baby.
Wadanohara,
Yes?
I love you.
I love you too.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh?
I love so much that he knows. I love that he knows.
What about Tatsumiya? Irena? You love them?
Of course I do.
No. What I mean is...
Huh?
Ugh, never mind. I'll say it better some other time.
Samikichi, thanks. You picked this one. You did this.
Yeah.
Bless these dumbasses. That's why I couldn't believe it. And then he betrayed her, and everyone is sad. Yes. You couldn't have done such a thing. Bad.
Wada.
Oh, by the way, you got knocked the hell out, and everything is probably on fire now. What? Are you okay? No. No, not at all. I'm gonna go with nope. A dream. Huh? What? Not in the slightest. Not okay. Mocha? That's me. Can you stand water? Maybe. Staring. You've awakened, Wadanohara? Didn't realize you were in the throne room, did ya? Yes. What happened? That's my line. What did happen? It's a kingdom. Huh? Where's Samikichi? He carried you here. Huh? And then he split right after. Thought something was up, and boy, was I right. What's it mean? Why would Samikichi help you? It's chaos out there. Everybody's fighting their weird guys. Kami and Dolph, too. Oh no, I have to go. No. Body says no. You stood up too fast, and you have low iron. Huh? You okay? I love the fucked up music that's happening in the background. Dig that. Wadanohara, what is it? Yeah. Rise up slowly. Not okay. Love that face. I'm fine. My head hurts a little. And immediately fall. Damn. You're not fine at all, are you? Princess, I had a dream about the past.
Tell me more. Stairs.
But just can't remember that time.
Wadanohara, I do not know if this has to do with that, but it seems the barrier has been completely destroyed.
What? Did I not fix it right? No way! You definitely fixed it, Wada.
We haven't the foggiest why it came to be, but the stones all broke at once. Never mind your problems. Yeah, honestly, I was like, I don't know if this is related. However, this is kind of a big friggin' deal. It must be Samakichi's doing, yes?
I think you're wrong. Wada? Why can't I remember? It's so important. But I know I saw him. Oh, my head hurts. No, just can't be. He couldn't. No. No.
I'm not gonna read all that. It's much more like, it has so much more like presence and like impact in text format, I feel like. I absolutely love when video games do that kind of stuff where they mess up the words. Like, ooh, my favorite thing in a horror game, mess with my UI, please. Oh man, I'm so into that. And like the text being that involved in that too, absolutely. Especially internal thoughts being messed up like that. Mwah! Chef kiss.
Enough! Don't push it! Let's go, Mimoka. Huh? We have to stop Otsusa Kingdom. Or our sea. But, are you okay, Wada? I'm fine. Will the princess be okay?
Worry not. We have soldiers around the perimeter. Elka and Pulmore outside, while Tatsumiya and Sao shall remain here. We would want you guarding the castle as well, but I worry for the others. You must keep them from making it to the castle.
Understood.
Stare. Wadanohara, we implore you.
Yes, Your Highness.
Aw, she walks more slowly. Princess. This is turning most dire.
Where is everybody? They're fighting along the current into town, I think. Okay, we can take the shortcut. Let's hurry. Yeah!
Okay. I think mostly because I didn't write any content warnings for this part of the game yet. I think I am gonna call it here and leave it on a wonderful cliffhanger of everything having gone to shit. Yay! Everything is bad. Do that one. Yay!
So yeah. Thank you guys very much for joining. And
yeah, everything is awful. Everything is going to hell in a handbasket. It doesn't fit. Let's see. Do we have any gear to give you? Let's see.
Ooh. Hi. Stampede of oh no! Oh, I'm sorry! Oh no! What happened? Why is it telling me the rain messages? No! I'm so sorry! I gotta figure out why it's doing that. I thought I had turned off all the, like, auto stuff. I'm sorry. Oh no.
Okay, so it's in Stream Elements that's doing it. I will definitely take a look at that. I'm so sorry. No.
Hello, Starcrust.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, I don't know. It's not. I don't think it has anything to do with the message itself. I think it has to do with the fact that it was like repeated or like how that everybody was saying it. I'm not sure. I will definitely check into that. I am so sorry. Oh, you appear to have tripped over my tripwires. Welcome to my home. However, Slim Jim, I'm so sorry. Oh, the faces. I'm so sorry. Oh no. Thank you, Neb, for following, and thank you, Kodo.
Yay! I'm so glad you guys are here. Hello.
In the oh. I mean, I don't know that sounds like so much of a threat. Is that a threat? Or is that a threat or a promise? Thank you for following. I'm so sorry the raid messages are messed up. That's so weird because they were working last time. Yeah. I don't know. They said so. Everrock said so. I don't know. Okay, so, just kidding. We're about to go. Okay, so the story is, yeah. Okay, so, the story so far, everything has gone to hell. Everything just went to hell. Just now. That's why we have the music. Yeah.
You certainly can. I would appreciate it if you want.
Yes, we are on that part. Well, actually, no, we're not. There's two different layers of hell. We're only on the first layer of hell right now. Let me see. I think, yes, this is better equipment, so let's change our equipment. We're gonna hit him with a fish. And I can't remember if, yeah, that's normal. No, we're not putting that on. I'm not putting that. You can't make me. Okay, you're playing, oh, do we need, okay, yeah, we can use that. And sunglasses, very cool. Let's see, yes. Okay, so, yeah, the flashback. So I don't think Jelly has ever played any of the game. So I will not spoil anything other than what you're about to see. I will not spoil the past stuff that just happened because it's very, very good. But yes, right now, Wada got knocked out and had a flashback. This is Wada. And we got woken up by our friend Memoka. And God bless Wada, she is absolutely the smoothest brain. That is the flashback, is her brain is so smooth. And so now our entire sea is being invaded. We live under the sea, and we're being invaded by bodies! Oh, I should do that! I do need a pronouns command, thank you. My pronouns are he, they. So he, him, or they, them is totally fine. Probably he, I guess. That's a good idea though, I appreciate that, suggestion, and I'm sorry it's not there. But, yeah, I am playing it again. This is maybe my third time or so. I love this game so much. So this is kind of like, I want to say I am playing this only before I make affiliate because the creators' wishes are that no parts of the game be monetized in any way, as far as like playthroughs, be monetized in any way, because they used free assets, like particularly the music, in part of the game. So that's why I'm playing this for my affiliate push game. So I will not play this again once I make affiliate, and probably none of other DSPs or works, just depending on, yeah, I'll check the permissions as far as whether they are okay with that. But so yeah, I am attempting to voice act this whole mess, and I'm not really oh my god. I'm so sorry. Oh no. I'm gonna fix stream elements. I don't know why it's stopping everybody from it's okay, spam filters. Hang on. I don't know what's happening. I don't have caps lock off. Maybe it's and I don't have emotes off. Obviously links are off, but that's fine. And there's particular words that are banned, but it's not anything you guys would be saying. I don't know why it's stopping everybody from raid messaging. I'm so sorry. No. Welcome to my home. You've hit the tripwires with the shotguns in the doorway. I'm so sorry. Thank you very much for raiding. Hang on. I never shouted out anybody. Let me shout out Jelly. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Yeah. Jelly rated too. Okay, let me listen. Star Jelly and Sleepy Pana, who was recently made affiliate. I almost said partner. Congratulations on partner. Hi Scram. I've seen you in other chats. Oh yeah, where'd your dragon lady go? Oh, let me try. I can practice. Ooh, can I do that? Can I show off arts? Let's try it with this really dramatic. Yes, I have spotted you. I have, hang on. I have spotted you. There we go. Yeah, you did so good. No, I think I just lurk a lot, Scrimp. You're good. That I am in Pana's chats and Mealita's chats sometimes, so that's probably where I saw you. Yeah, you're so accomplished. Nice. Heck yeah. Deli, what was yours? Let's see, what was your, I don't remember what your prompt for today was. Yeah. I didn't ask you about your art, Deli. I'm sorry. I don't know what your prompt was. You're very cute. I can do it. I can do a permit. I know how to do that and not get you timed out for. I don't know why it's doing that. I have it off. I don't know why it would be doing that. I'm so sorry. Oh my goodness. All right. So Pana, we are playing Wadanohara. And oh, fair enough. No, I know. Into the spike pit. Welcome to my home. Ah, you appear to have fallen. Yeah. No, I can do the link. I know how to permit the link. We can do that one if you guys want to. If either Jelly or Pana, if you like to share your whips or your art that you have done on stream, I would love to. I can manage that one. So right now everything has gone to heck and I mean, if you can get down there, I don't think we have any rope. Yes, please. 1 second. I will permit you. I'm pretty sure. My permit, I think, is only for 60 seconds. So let me know if you have it ready. I can do it right now. I'm just gonna let this little guy bun at me forever. I apologize. I don't have a chatting screen. Yes. Hang on. I will permit. Okay. Wait. Permit. Boom. Yes. Okay. And permit. Oh no! No! I did the permit! No! Wait! Where is it? I'm so good at Twitch, you guys. I'm so good at this. What's blocking it now? No! I'm so sorry. Hang on. Oh, okay. It's Twitch directly blocking it. So I need to turn Twitch's off. And okay. Try it again. If you dare. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much for Starcross for coming in. I swear. I did the thing. I just turned it off just now. I can see it says block hyperlinks off. I can see that. Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm so good at Twitch. There's not anything in there. Where is it blocking the links for? I have it permitted. That would be fine. Yes, I will. Yes, hang on. I will just find you. I will just do this. And also this gets me to practice. I haven't done a, gosh. I haven't done a browser source for here, so let me. You're gonna see it weird, but you just added a browser source. Wait, that's not what I want. No, I want window capture. Heck. No! Wait! Hang on, don't look! Oh, no. You followed for this! I just deleted my overlay. No! I deleted my overlay and not this thing. Oh my god. Thank you for following during this. I'm so glad. Give me my overlay back, Lord. At least it's over here and I have it saved. Give me my link. Oh my god, bun, my butt. Frickin' browser source, overlay. You just added a browser source. Now everybody gets to see this live. It's fine. I just made my overlay too small. It's fine. It's fine. I can fix that one. That I can fix. I don't have to redo that. Welcome to the circus. Get behind me. Okay. Okay. Wait, why have I killed my bopping? Why am I not bopping anymore? I'm not the one that's supposed to be the clown. I'm just broken. I'm not bopping anymore. Why am I not bopping? Why am I not? What just happened? What just happened? You can still wait. No, you can still hear me. Don't tell me that. Okay, there. Okay. Why? Oh. Okay. Are we bopping again? No, we're not bopping again. Okay. Hang on. We're almost gonna be bopping. I promise. Bunny curse. What? This wasn't even like. This isn't even related. My overlay is not attached to my PNG. Why aren't you bopping? Oh, I'm muted. I'm muted in Discord. I didn't have to do that. Okay. Bop it. I'm so very glad that my suffering can be entertaining for you. Okay. All right. I want a window capture. A window. I can read words. A window capture of my browser. Yes. And I want it to be a different browser than that. I want it to be this browser. Okay. And now it's in front of everything. Get back here. There. Look, it's a cool art. It's a cool, I'm gonna move something if I, okay. Yeah! We have something resembling progress. Is it showing up? It's a little too big. It's showing up though, and it's very cool, and I really like that pose. And it's just like, yes, we did it! By the hardest, we have done it. We have viewed an art. Okay, Pana's next. Where's Pana? Yay, Pana. Okay, now this one, let me see. No, it needs to go over here. Hang on. We're getting there. This one I've got. I've got this one on lock. I got this one on lock. Yeah, that's showing up, right? Yay! That's super pretty. I like how you did with the scales. I think that's good. Yeah, I'll just have 3 of me lined up. 2 slightly smaller ones. Yeah, no, that's beautiful. And the hand is really good. Bless that foreshortening. That was really good. That's really good. I'm excited. I cannot wait to see the rest of that. Alright. So let me... maybe I'll just, like... move it. Yeah, okay. Yes. The 4th one. Yeah, no. No, I fixed those, by the way. You guys can talk now too. Your little I had my mods and my friends on a stream a little while back, and we had some. I'm so good at OBS, and we had some really great, very functional, worked super completely time there. Yeah, that's what happened. And everybody's like little models were messed up. So mostly Butters, Demon Surfer. Yeah. Okay. Actually, I think I saved that as a clip. Like, or I know Butters clipped it, so I think it's actually on my like. Yeah. Large and pointing. All right. So the deal. So what we were doing here is we're gonna fight some bunnies. My content warning command is not updated for this section of the game just yet. I will warn you, it is definitely going to be blood and violence of a illustrated nature. There shouldn't be anything that's like actively, you know, being injured or anything like that. It's mostly going to be like blood puddles and probably some tiny dead bunny bodies. They'll be like zoomed out and just, you know, like little pixel drawings. So that is my content warning for this section as far as I know. So blood and violence is probably what's gonna happen here. Oh, I forgot, I'm voice acting. Bun. They're already this far? There's so many. Yeah, screw you. Oh, no. That's what the bunnies sound like. There's a few. There's just a few bunnies. Oh my god. Yeah, it was. Oh, they left too. They don't get to see it. It's just a few. Excuse me, please. Excuse me. I can just walk around them. Like, you have to interact with them to do the battle. They don't like, they're not like Pokemon where they like auto battle you. You have to try. Emika, why is your health so low? Why do you suck? Okay, they died really easily. Oh. What just happened? What is happening? What? Wait, what? What? Can you guys die? What is happening? I'm gonna cast Bird. Bird. Kaboom. Okay, that's more like it. That's what I was like. Jesus Christ. Okay. All right. Thank you for the money. Can you just okay? So the thing is that this is absolutely not a game that, like, it's an RPG, but it does absolutely not require you to do any sort of like grinding. The very first time I played this game, I was expecting bunnies. I was expecting like, yeah. I was expecting, oh, just one. Okay, that's everybody. Like, to seriously grind. I was like, I'm coming off of like Final Fantasies. I'm like, oh, okay, I need to grind. And I was way too OP. This is very much a story-focused game. It absolutely does not need you to grind. Ooh. I don't know what that is, but it sounds cool. Excuse me. Pardon me. Where's the cat at this party? So right now we are trying to be reunited with my other two friends. Oh, here they are. Here are my other two friends. Fukami gives us nothing. Fukami is a man of few words and much staring. And we love him. Dolphy is baby. Dolphy is a dolphin. So the fun part about the designs for Wadanohara and her familiars. Hi, yes. Much to the expense of my like my I'm amusing people with my stuff, I guess. I had to learn how to OBS real quick and learn how to Twitch, and I still haven't learned how to Twitch. Don't say a raid message, just letting you know. But also, hi, welcome. All right, Dolphy is absolutely baby. So the designs for all of the Wadanohara's like familiars are that they're basically like cat folk, like cat boys, except most of these are girls, except like with sea creatures. So it's really huge brain, very good design. Wait, we shouldn't act rashly.
But
Our foe is a demon.
yeah,
Very funny. Finally feeling the flame again.
We just have to stop this one.
yeah.
Now. Even if you were to beat me, there'll soon. Look at me! Don't me! Now the party's all reunited. These are my friends.
Yeah, this one and their 12 friends. Yeah. Well, the friends go down quickly. They're pretty soft.
Wadanohara?
Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. More importantly. Oh, we are a family and we eat together. You know this, Bay. Huh? There? Oh, baby. Wadanohara? Well, isn't that, odd? Why is Wadanohara here? Same to you, Ver. Huh? What? You know her, what? Ver, I live here! This is my house? Yeah, I said I was friends with a demon, remember? Huh? Friends? This is awkward. Oh boy. Oh, this is Wadanohara's sea. Oh, now I've done it. Should have given up.
What's this now, Wadanohara? Is this demon not one of the Totsusa kingdom?
Huh? No, I'm a mercenary. I just took the job because it had good terms. Oh, darn. Huh? Well, sorry, Wadanohara. I have...
Oh, I forget who's speaking here. Hey, Ver, what's the matter? Is it you? What? I forget which one of these you were. Oh, is it? Okay, hang on.
Oh, you're all ready?
Oh, no, it is not. Okay. It is the lady herself.
Princess Totsusa.
So we're currently being invaded by bunnies.
Oh my, is that the sea witch?
That sounded like Marge Simpson. Hang on. Let me revise my voice. I can't do that one. I can't do that one. I need Mega to be the voice of the dad. Mega is a dad.
Oh my, is that the sea witch?
Seems like it. Hello.
So impatient, princess.
I just want to slaughter Womi as soon as I can.
Oh god.
Who? Princess Totsusa!
Yeah, you're this far already?
Oh no.
To the princess. There's supposed to be a barrier around the town and castle for emergencies. But what if...
You woke up rather quick, huh? That's a good witch.
Huh? Ha! Princess came out herself? Must be super bored. Mimoka.
What? Nuh-uh, I came with Dad.
Of course.
Dad?
That's a head. Who's dad?
So, you're the king of Totsusa Kingdom?
Indeed I am. I am the King Artemis.
My dad's not a head. That can't be right?
Like, okay, that one's an actual kimono Mimi. Princess Totsusa is literally just wearing a bunny headband.
No. You can't be. That's not right.
Memoka? What do you mean not right?
Huh? Because I've been to Totsusa Kingdom before. And their king was this huge rabbit monster, right? What's this tiny weird robo guy?
How rude to His Majesty. No, it's understandable, Hofuru.
Sigh. I'm a bit fed up with explaining this, but
You can't just ask them why they're not a giant rabbit monster.
huh?
No, I shall explain, Princess.
Oh, what the?
A strange witch cast a strange spell on me, you see? And thus my dandy self is now as you see before you.
What the heck? Mecha.
Where did you go? Where did your mouth go? Where did you put it?
Yeah, so I hate witches. It's not good to lump groups together, you know. Eh? Getting fed up with you.
Memoka, don't agitate her. So, yes, that is why witches awkward are not necessarily too bad in my book.
What? I see.
In fact, I'm grateful. It's easy and fun to tinker with machines. It's a blush you.
Dad? Enough?
Oh, yes. sorry. Okay, let's go.
Just you wait, Princess Uomi.
Thank you.
I leave the rest to you.
Roger. They vanished? To the castle. The princess. Gotta hurry.
Up. Can't let you do that.
There?
Sorry, Wadanohara. Gotta do the jobs I take. That's always been my way.
No way. I know, right? They're like awkward, like derpy music, like marp. Whoops.
All right, guys. Time for work.
Oh, not even you?
Wait!
Funny time. Got a car payment, yeah. I love how they have to like line up like you're in like elementary school chorus. That you gotta line up like shoulder to shoulder. So that everybody can be seen and fit in the row. Let's see. What is, oh. Let's hit everybody. Bird! I don't know that you get a, yeah, you don't have a hits all just yet, so you go ahead. And, oh, good. I don't think it's gonna be needed. Yeah, it's just a one. Gullible. The original, like, there was some fun thing they did with the translation in this one to the name of the attack. I want to say in Japanese, the direct translation is like, is it a gull? Or something like that. So it just makes me think of the meme with the butterfly guy. And they disappeared. Yikes! Yikes! What do we do? No time to hesitate. Let's hurry. Yeah! Yeah. Katori! Yeah. Thank you. Roger. Yeah, okay, I guess I'm going this way because I'm pointed this way. Bird. No, don't take me to a chair. Oh no, haha. Good. Oh, the town barrier looks fine.
many barriers does the sea even have?
No one's answering that. Okay.
Something's coming.
Here it is.
Huh?
Run! Run!
Oh my god. There are a few.
Ah! That's way too many!
Bun bun.
Kami's like, oh good, I was hungry.
Bun!
Bun. Bun bun.
Entirely too many.
Bun. Bun. Bun.
Enough! You guys go home!
Wadanohara, what now? Wait! I don't know who's speaking.
Huh? Oh, hi, friends!
You shall not pass. Dang, that's hella buns. Ugh, swarms of them. Disgusting.
Pelican?
Bun.
Wadanohara, leave this to us. You go on ahead.
But
Just small fry, however numerous. They stand no chance. Yeah, dude, no worries. Sheesh. Okay. You gonna be okay? There's like a lot of fish there, Memoka, it's fine.
Yeah.
Bun! Bun bun!
You better not make light of us. For disturbing the morals of our fair kingdom, I shall punish you. Prepare. Oh, God!
Prepare!
Sakura's like, I don't have anything cool.
Bun bun!
Yeah, I was thinking it, yeah. Yeah. Oh no, the laders are broken. Oh no. It's so mean. Why would you break? No, they have little spears. You go, little guys. I forgot where we're going. Oh, we're going this way. Okay. Going to the castle. Hi, everybody. Ah, Wadanohara. Wadanohara. Good, you're safe.
Oh.
Guys. Oh, good. Nobody hurt? We're fine. But what are they? They're the ones from Totosa Kingdom?
They sure are!
Oh no. I'm not used to this at all.
I don't think anyone is.
Oh, really? Gosh, and after a great banquet. Are we okay here?
There's a barrier keeping them from entering town. As long as we have that.
I'm scared. Oh. There, don't cry. There are some other weirdos. Jerry and Delos are fighting them off in Coral Sea.
Huh? What the heck? Is that kingdom?
But Memoka, calm down.
It's bad. Cherry Blood still isn't in good condition.
Yeah, same. She's so cute. She's sleepy. I love her.
Yeah, let's head to Coral Sea right away. Everybody get back under my skirt so I can walk. Thank you. That's how that... That's how it works. That's how RPGs work. You gotta have everybody under your skirts. Alright, where are the bad guys? Hello, children. All good? Okay.
What's that? Isn't this kind of crazy?
I just woke up after the banquet and everything was terrible!
What's going to happen to us?
It's fine. It's fine. Fine. Don't worry about it. We're just being invaded. It's fine. Excuse me, pardon me, excuse me, gentlemen. Excuse me. Excuse me. Oh no! How dare you! You hurt the fishies! They have little X eyes! How could you? It's one. Okay. Ow! Like that sound. Wait, why didn't you die? The heck? Well, this'll do it.
have money.
I am concerned. I am concerned. Anyway, moving on. How could you? I'm fighting. I don't know if I'll fight all of them because I don't know how many there are. But I'm gonna fight you because you hurt the fishies. Wow, that was a good one. Go. Make the dings. No! Need to hurt the fishies. Baltas! Oh, that's adorable. There are more bunnies in the background. Oh. Can't fight those bunnies. Hi, hello, there's a lot of you guys. Can you stop? Can you, excuse me. Excuse me. Oh, sure. Hey, I'm a healer. Full heal, 10G. Well, I have to say that one. Okay, and let's save. Yes. Oh wait. Oh no. Sorry, hang on. I forgot to give everybody the equipment. I think only Wada and Mimikar have it. Yeah, this one. Wait, there's more. That's normal. I'm not putting that on. Can't make me. Nope. And fish. Eat him with a fish. Okay. Here we go. Oh. I'm okay. Honey, you have to run! I'll handle this! I can't do that. Ugh. You ain't so tough. Jeez, this might be a pretty boring job. Go off, Cherry Blood! What? My husband is sick! If he was his usual self, you'd be dead in seconds! Really? Ah, well. I was ordered to kill every one of you. So, starting here. Yeah! I'm gonna throw a rock at you. Ah! Yo! Cherry Blood! Dolores! Wadanohara? Huh? Who are you? You're that witch Vernos, huh? Sorry, but we won't go easy on a friend of a friend. Guadalajara! Yeah, Guadalajara and the Great Blue Sea. Yeah, it's a great game.
Hey, why are his arms wrapped up in bandages?
For fashion? Happens all the time. Oh, stupid. I was wounded. Man, I am not used to water. It was a mistake to take this job.
Huh?
Ah, well. Oh, okay. Hey, how are you how are you? Yeah, how else are we gonna know he's a tough guy? How about we start with you? We're underwater, right? Totally underwater right now.
Here.
A boss fight! I feel like it's been a long time since we had a boss fight. I think our last boss fight was Idate. So, alright, let's go all out. I feel like the music is also louder here. I don't know if that's just me. Let me just ooch that down a tad. I feel like it's louder. Okay. One, yeah, this one. Okay. Huh? Odd. Oh, she's so cute. checking to see if we have any more status effects we can do. I love me some status effects. God, oh my god, what did you just do? Fear. Sure can. Oh. Oh, okay, bye. I'm so strong. And rich now. Thanks for all your money and the levels. Thank you. Not bad. Well, that's my duty for now. Adios. All right. Well, I tried. Whoops, bye. This is what you get for hiring mercenaries. You okay? Fine, but my husband. Let's hurry to town. Cherry Blood's resting for now. Still people I haven't seen. You okay? So? Thank you, King. Give us nothing. Anyway, we need to get out. Huh? What? What was that? Something at the castle. That's bad. Hurry! Nope, just kidding. You stood up too fast again. Huh? What's wrong? You okay? Or does it hurt? It's my head. Oh, you know. This is a normal. This is what a headache is like, right? Breaker, this is what a migraine is like. This is what it likes. So somebody like just some disembodied voice in your head going, "No, stop." Yeah. Okay, good. I figured. This must be a mistake. You wouldn't do this, would you? No! Bad things! Bad! No. Don't want this. Alright, anyway. That happened. Hey, are you okay? No, definitely not. I'm fine. We need to hurry. No one is convinced. You are not fine. Fukami is ellipsising so hard that he is now ellipsising in his own brain instead of out loud. Look what you've done, Wadanohara. Not a one. Not a one. All right. Yeah, I think I'm gonna call it before we go to the castle. Everything has gone to shit, and we'll leave it there. Seems like a good idea, because otherwise the castle goes on a little longer, and that takes like, you know, it's essentially another cutscene, so, and a fairly long one. And I think there's actually more boss fights before that, so I think we will call it, and we will finish taking back the castle in the next stream, which I think will most likely be Sunday. I think we'll do. It'll probably be earlier in the evening, like this past Sunday. I did it at like 8 p.m. Eastern time, so 5 p.m. Pacific. Probably about that again. I would think that seemed to work out pretty well. So I will see you guys again at 8 p.m. on Sunday. Or oh, I don't have any music now because it's not playing any music because it's so dramatic right now. But yeah, we will rescue the castle on Sunday. So I will head over to my ending screen here and have no music whatsoever. This is a little weird. Oh, I know. Hang on. Let me hang on. I'm gonna make sure I did save. We're double saving. Okay. And we'll have the title screen music. There we go. That's what I've been doing, is just having the title screen music in the background because it's so nice. I like the title screen. But yeah. Thank you everybody so much for joining. Thank you for the raids, for Jelly and Pana for raiding, and for Solaris who raided earlier. I don't know if he's still here, but if you are, thank you so much. This was so much fun. I am so sorry that you all got nuked for your raid messages. I will do some serious searching in the settings in between now and then and figure out what the hell happened. Yay! I appreciate that. I hope to have some good chaos for you. Thank you, Scrape. Thank you, everybody. Let's see if there's anybody we can raid, if there's anyone who is still freaking awake at this hour. Let's find out. Oh no, where has my stream gone? Hang on. Where did it go? I moved away to go to the, hang on. I don't know where my stream manager is. Okay. Okay. I'm so good. Raid channel. Is there anybody I'm following who is on? Oh man! Let's raid Melita! Okay. Yay! Let's go see Melita! She is doing some art. Let's check and make sure she's not about to end and we're trapping her in here. Okay, she's on BRB right now. Well, crap. Don't you love that when you like, yeah, oh no. Did she like just go? Oh no. Yeah. Well, no, she's like not even there. I mean, I guess it's fine, but it's funny. I think we'll do that though. I don't want to like, I quit the game already and I don't want to like keep you guys waiting around to go raid her, so I'll probably just raid her while she's on break. I don't know. That's funny. I finally found someone who streams later than me, huh? I think Melita's always where I end up going after I'm done. Somebody who goes later than me. Oh, you're right! Oh. You know, I actually never played, Gartic. I know that's like a huge thing. I'm assuming it's like kind of like Pictionary, I guess. Man, my subtitles suck. I have a closed captioning plugin. It sucks. I gotta do a different closed captioning plugin that is completely inaccurate. I can see it. I don't think it's gotten a word right yet. Right, let's see here. Okay, so our raid message is Candygram. So if you want to copy and paste Candygram, we will send Melita a Candygram. While she's not here. We'll be waiting, it'll be waiting on her porch when she gets back. This is fun. Let's raid. Oh, she's not there. I know, they're horrible. I'm gonna go to a different one. It's because I don't use Chrome. So it's like complete, because Chrome is way better at voice recognition because Google is Skynet. So I don't use Chrome, so I'm probably gonna have to start. And I'll just have a window of Chrome open just for the sake of, the captioning. Because, yeah, I don't know what it's using. The what? Great. Yeah, that's definitely, yep, yeah, that's definitely what I said. 100%. I'm hoping by the time the raid counter, it's a race now between the raid counter and Melita coming back. I doubt it's going to work, but feel free to leave a Candygram on her porch. I will be joining you. We will go hang out with Melita. Righty. Again, thank you everybody so much for joining and for all the raids. That's really cool. Bye. Here we go. Yeah. Yeah.